Yes, welcome back to the news today. U.S. Defense Secretary Ashton, last night we saw the Republican Party presidential hopefuls gather in Las Vegas for another debate, this being the final one before the primaries kick off. It was a no-holds-barred session with the candidates trading barbs and insults as they tried to score points with the public. We have more in the following report.
Donald, is great at the one-liners, but he's a chaos candidate. And he'd be a chaos president.
In their fifth face-off, it was a no-holds-barred battle over national security, with Donald Trump's proposal to ban Muslims from entering the U.S. front and center.
We're not talking about religion. We're talking about security. Our country is out of control.
If we're going to ban all Muslims, how are we going to get them to be part of a coalition to destroy ISIS?
Marco Rubio also under attack on several fronts over whether surveillance and data collection needs to be ramped up to track terrorists.
And that tool we lost, the metadata program, was a valuable tool that we no longer have at our disposal.
Marco knows what he's saying isn't true.
I think Marco gets it completely wrong, but he's the weakest of all the candidates on immigration.
An argument that clearly got under Governor Chris Christie's skin.
Listen, I want to talk to the audience at home for a second. If your eyes are glazed over like mine, this is what it's like to be on the floor of the United States Senate.
A protester interrupted Trump and was escorted out, but that didn't stop the national frontrunner and Bush from going back at it on stage.
The fact is, if you think this is tough and you're not being treated
this
fairly,
isn't tough and easy.
Imagine what it's going to be like dealing with Putin, or dealing with President Xi, or dealing with the Islamic terrorism that exists. This is a tough business to run for president.
I know. You're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is principled. You're never going to be president of the United States by insulting your way to the presidency.
Let's see. I'm at 42 and you're at 3, so far I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
Yes, and joining me now in the studio to talk more about the debate is Dani Ayalon, former Israeli Deputy Foreign Minister. Dani, good evening.
Good evening, Ayman.
Well, I want to start with the question that we always ask after every debate. Everyone wants to crown the winner. Was there a clear winner, and if so, who's yours?
Well, I would say that Trump really continues to hold his own. The fact that he dominates the debate, whether he attacks others or whether others attack him, like Jeb Bush, it still seems to be the one whose shadow looms very large over everyone else. Not much substance was really discussed, although they did try to get into some details about immigration policies, of course, how to fight terror, but it was more kind of sound bites and not real programs. And nobody talked about gun control or anything else, which is really in the midst of the debate between the Republican and Democrats. So let's say, not discussing substance, then you have to look at the personalities. And I think this is what the debates really is about, because I can guarantee you, Ayman, that most of the spectators of the debate, 90% of them, will not remember what each one of the candidates said. But they will remember, or they will have a long impression about how they carry themselves, how they talk, if they sound reasonable, if they sound leader, like leaders. Jeb Bush does not look like a leader. Even when he attacks Trump, it seems like soft-spoken, and Trump continues to lead. I know it's a year before the elections. It's still about 2 months before the Iowa caucuses and then the New Hampshire primaries. In Iowa, he is losing ground to Ted Cruz, but everything still can happen. If I was hard-pressed to make a prediction, I would say Trump may be the Republican candidate.
So you don't believe that these remarks that he's making now, that are causing a stir and have been for months, and people were saying this will hurt him, but we saw that the polls show us differently. You don't believe that this will turn on him and show us a very different trend very soon?
Ayman, because sadly or not, he says what many Americans believe in. And so they look at him that he has the guts to talk about things that all the other candidates either just evade or use euphemistically, political correctness, and there is a real anger and mistrust in the American public from Washington. This is why we see candidates from the outside who are really rising in the polls, like Ben Carson, although he is now sliding, or Fiorina, or anyone else. Even Chris Christie tried to distinguish himself in Washington. He was kind of lambasting the other candidates, saying, you see now all the debates, what is happening in Washington? They all debate doing nothing. He, Christie, I was a governor, So I have executive power, I have executive experience. This is how he tries to kind of move ahead. But at this point, I would say there is a lot of distrust, and Trump is gaining a lot of momentum.
Well, Danny, what about Rand Paul? Because he was really struggling in the beginning of this race. People are saying that after last night, he may be starting to shine. He answered the questions. He didn't attack any of the other candidates, not as much as the others. Didn't receive a lot of talk time, but a lot of analysts are saying this could be his turning point.
Well, that remains to be seen because, again, the debate is very important, but Iowa and then New Hampshire will give the momentum. And in both places, he is still, with minimal, 1%, 2%, 3%, not more. But we will see. Again, we have now about 2 months for the candidates to do their job. I believe now everybody will converge on Iowa to try to get the points there because, it's symbolic, but more than symbolic. It's a momentum. Whoever wins Iowa goes to New Hampshire with an edge. If they win New Hampshire, that's kind of beginning to show a trend.
And finally, Danny, speaking of candidates who shone and maybe stopped shining, Ben Carson has all but vanished from the polls. What happened to Carson?
Well, I believe that in his case, since he has not talked too much about security issues or national security issues, I believe that the attack in Paris and San Bernardino showed that they need, the Americans would go to someone who either talks very tough, like Trump, or has some national security experience. So I think that more conventional candidates should win from that, like Mario Rubio, Cruz, and even Jeb Bush. We have not seen that yet. It seems like, again, Trump is collecting most of the votes. So at this point, I think everything can be possible. I would say one last point, Ayman, is that Trump was very, very judiciously, smartly, was saying that he will not run as an independent candidate, which means he is really now catering to the Republicans to kind of try to tell them, don't worry, you can still vote for me. I will not run as a third candidate, trying to invoke a lot of sympathy from the traditional Republicans.
Yes, it's been a roller coaster ride of debates. Danny Ayalon, thank you very much for helping us make sense of it all.
Thank you.